It's finally here, the Acela Next Gen. The Alstom Avelia Liberty is the most advanced train in the Western Hemisphere and a genuine revolution in high-speed rail in the United States. New seats, fast 5G Wi-Fi, modern design, and a real 160 mile per hour capability. I gave the old Acela a bit of a hard time, but it was long since past its prime. There is a bias, and I want this trip to be great. I paid for first class using my own money, thanks to all of you for watching these videos, for nearly the full journey from Providence, Rhode Island down to Washington, D.C., a scheduled trip of about 6.5 hours. Most of the coverage of this new train was from media and YouTubers who took it on launch day back in August 2025. It's now November, and unfortunately, many of the initial growing pains are still a thing. They began by only introducing 2 sets in either direction per day, with several spares. But even with this setup, cancellations of the new trains persisted through September and October. And like this review of the Acela Next Gen, my train today is late. And even now, months after being introduced, it still sort of feels like a beta launch. The advanced tilting mechanism allowing higher speeds and turns? It's not enabled yet. The self-checkout in the cafe car? Coming soon. The digital signs at every seat? Not turned on. The door gap fillers? Still not fully functioning. They deployed while the train was at speed, leading to about 10 minutes of constant alarms. Heck, even the automatic doors are janky and sometimes don't fully open. So the real question is, can this beautiful but much delayed and still buggy train escape the decades-old problems of the Northeast Corridor? Let's find out. I booked this ticket through Amtrak's website, and pricing is now dynamic like airlines. Next-gen trains are tagged as such, and are sometimes more expensive. But looking at the schedule, we can see that this brilliant 160 mile per hour train is booked for 32 minutes longer than some of the older ones. Even if it's faster on paper, you won't really be seeing the benefits. This is in part on purpose, as the slower schedule allows for troubleshooting and ironing out the kinks, but it's disappointing for sure. At the end of the day, when the Acela First Gen debuted in 2000, it took 6 hours and 33 minutes from Boston to DC. The Next Gen takes 7 hours and 5 minutes. With further track improvements, as well as enabling of the tilting mechanism on the cars, this should eventually come down over the coming decades. Welcome to Providence, Rhode Island. The Providence station is small, undergoing renovations, and has a central waiting area. Like other non-terminal stations, the track wasn't posted until just before departure. My first class ticket does come with Amtrak lounge access, but Providence doesn't have one. First class was in car 1, so I walked down the length of the platform. There's now signs for each car and where to stand. Wow, that's real progress. It's just up to the operator to line up with the markers, and that didn't happen, as the train pulled in and we had to move to where the door actually was. When I checked on the train coming from Boston, it wasn't moving on what was ostensibly the stretch of track capable of 160 miles per hour. It finally pulled in 8 minutes late. One of the new features of the train doors is an extending mechanism to cover up the gap. The woman behind me was vision impaired, and she remarked on how great of an addition that was.
Watch your step. There is a brake plate.
Oh, wow.
Automatic brake plate.
That's nice now. That's nice now.
But they are still misbehaving. On the inaugural trip, they jammed. On my trip, they extended while the train was at speed, resulting in an alarm blaring for several minutes. The first class car looks fantastic. It's clean, modern, and that 1-2 configuration is excellent for solo travelers. The Boston-based crew was fantastic. You could immediately tell where they're from by how they pronounce the word coffee, were incredibly friendly when welcoming everyone on board, and provided fantastic service over the entire journey. They seriously made it worthwhile in and of themselves. As soon as I sat down, they quickly offered me a drink and took my breakfast order. So let's look at these seats in further detail. They are really firm. Uncomfortably so. I'm sure they'll soften over time, but after about hour 5, I could definitely feel it. There's a reading light in the headrest itself, which is immovable and unadjustable. Unless you want to get really friendly with someone else's knees, don't pick the pairs and quads, as with the spacing, you'll be all over each other. There's a small mesh pouch, and a tray that folds down with some difficulty unlatching it, and a small cup holder that just barely fits a cup of coffee. Legroom is good. Now for the big critique, the seat recline. This new design, where only the bottom cushion slides forward, is really uncomfortable. Yes, the person in front of you can't recline into your space, but you lose all your space, and it's just at a really uncomfortable angle. I did it once and then didn't bother for the rest of the trip. The recline is simply not worth doing. The windows are large and have a screen to control the shade, except if you're in row 3, which has no window. Hey, I'm not sure Deutsche Bahn's ICE 4 is the train you want to be emulating here. There's overhead screens reminding us that we are on this train, but that's not particularly helpful. And each seat has a digital sign that isn't turned on yet. We pulled out of Providence 15 minutes late. I ordered a coffee and the quiche. It was a savory dish, presented on real placeware. It was a tad overly salty, but it was a solid, warm breakfast, better than on most planes. This stretch of track between Boston and New York is very scenic as it winds along the coast. That also means it's incredibly slow, with an average speed of just 66 miles per hour. Since I finished my meal, I thought I'd walk through the train to check out the business class and the cafe car. Business class is in a 2-2, and looked fine if you're not traveling solo. The cafe car is gorgeous and really reminds me of those on the TGV. There's a lot of healthy-looking fresh options, as well as some ordered at the attendant. There's also a self-checkout that doesn't work yet. It's not like they had 5 years of delays to get this thing working. Another neat perk is that food in the cafe car is free for first-class passengers. Do note that the cafe car closes about 30 minutes before New York and only reopens after departing New York. We reached our first stop, New Haven, Connecticut. We were already running 19 minutes late and departed 20 minutes behind schedule. West of New Haven, it's not just the curvature of the tracks that lead to slow speeds, but instead it's the lack of investment by Connecticut's transit agency. The grade-level crossings cap speeds at 79 miles per hour, and the old 12.5-volt electrical system caps the whole stretch at around 110 miles per hour, far below what this train is capable of. There's a reason why some plans for new track for the Acela involve skipping the state entirely. Our next stop was Stamford, Connecticut. We arrived 30 minutes late and departed 29 minutes late. We slowed and stopped again before New York, waiting for a train to pass due to construction, adding more time. And here comes LaGuardia Airport and New York in the distance. As we pull into New York, let's talk Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is actually really good on the new Acela. No, I wasn't getting the same speeds as some other reviewers, but it's fast enough to stream whatever you like. Though do note it's 5G cellular, so it goes out in tunnels, like the one we're pulling into as we approach Penn Station. After pulling into New York Penn Station, the first class car nearly completely emptied out. We were still running late overall, but with a scheduled 30-minute crew change, we technically arrived only 6 minutes before we were scheduled to leave. Over on another platform is another Next Gen Acela headed north from DC to Boston. The crew change was swift, but as expected, we pulled out of New York 10 minutes late. As we exited the city, the train dropped to just 15 miles per hour. These are the slow tunnels that the Gateway Project hopes to fix, and thank God that no one in their right mind would hold up funding for petty political reasons. You get one meal service between Boston and New York, and another from New York to DC. The lunch service began soon after leaving New York. I ordered the crab enchiladas, and they were genuinely fantastic, though they definitely didn't look all that great. I enjoyed it with a glass of Stag's Leap Cabernet Sauvignon, a bottle that retails for about $30. There was also this very tasty and decadent pumpkin spice cheesecake, since it was PSL season after all. Let's check out the restrooms on the train. They are huge, and like other Amtrak bathrooms, a little janky. There's one restroom per car. They open with this round sliding door. Once inside, you need to close the door first and then lock the door. These are two separate buttons. Just closing the door doesn't lock it. It's incredibly large and handicap accessible, and so infinitely better than flying. The New York to DC stretch is the bit most reviews cover, and is a corridor I've done for decades. Leaving New York, we were right up against a New Jersey transit train that was going faster than we were. How genuinely embarrassing. Eventually, with our slow acceleration, we were able to get it together and pass it. First up was Newark, which we departed 14 minutes late. The stretch near Princeton Junction is one of the stretches where the train can, and sometimes does, hit 160 miles per hour, and you can definitely feel the speed. It's also a heck of a lot smoother than the old Acelas, and there's no loud rattling of trays. Here comes Philadelphia, a city near and dear to my heart where I also used to live. We slow dramatically as we cross the Schuylkill and approach 30th Street Station. And parked right there are this train's siblings, still waiting for their turn to shine. They've been parked in Philly for years, and will slowly be rolled out one at a time through 2027. We pulled into Philadelphia's 30th Street Station 13 minutes late, and left 16 minutes late. Not long after is Wilmington, Delaware, where we can see a Northeast Regional headed north. Just before Baltimore, the attendants came through with cocktail nuts and announced last call. We pulled into Baltimore's Penn Station 11 minutes late and said hello to the old Acela heading north. They left first, and we pulled out 14 minutes late. Not long after Baltimore is BWI, and the second service concluded with a final hot towel. We pulled into BWI 14 minutes late and left 17 minutes late. we seemingly made one last push of speed between BWI and DC as they tried to make up the time. We pulled into Washington, D.C.'s Union Station only 14 minutes behind schedule. Again, I need to compliment the Boston-based attendants. They insisted on helping everyone down with their luggage, and were truly wonderful the entire time. With that, I said farewell to what had been my ride for nearly 6.5 hours, and headed into Union Station. First class tickets also do let you into Amtrak lounges on arrival, but the Amtrak lounge in DC is really not good at all. It doesn't hold a candle to what's in Moynihan Train Hall in New York. Perhaps someday it will get the update it deserves. So, the final verdict on the new Acela trains. I think it makes sense to start with my list of criticisms of the old Acela to see what, if anything, has changed. Slow speeds. Sadly, this hasn't changed, at least not yet. Unlocking the tilting and planned bridge and track improvements will eventually help, but the new Acelas are currently scheduled on the slowest runs. Delays. Sorry, there are still delays on the Acela, so no points there. Uncomfortable seats. I really didn't like the old Acela seats. These new seats also aren't really that great, are too firm, and aren't worth reclining, but were noticeably better, so the next gen wins there. The overall feel of the train went from a 25-year-old fossil to a genuinely new look and feel, though the Alstom logos already have seen better days. The windows, cafe car, bathroom, and the whole cabin are objectively a massive step up on that front, plus real functioning Wi-Fi on these newer trains. The old Acelas had a really rickety ride with tray tables banging incessantly. The next gen Acela is noticeably smoother. The track infrastructure on the Northeast Corridor has its bumps, but there is a marked improvement on that front. Additionally, the new Acelas have more capacity. There's 27% more seats. Given the record ridership of the NEC every year, more seats and more trains, 28 up from 20, this should lead to more capacity, more riders, and possibly even lower fares. And I wasn't the only one who thought so. I overheard multiple people saying how much they loved the new train, and they should. It's an immense upgrade. I concluded my old Acela review by saying that I'd rather take the Northeast Regional over taking the Acela to save on cost, and that first class was a joke. But having taken the Next Gen Acela in first class for 6.5 hours, I get it. I really had a wonderful and enjoyable time. I had planned to get a lot of work done on this trip, and I just didn't. I was too engrossed in enjoying the journey. And if that's not a testament to the Next Gen Acela first class experience, I don't know what is. So I'd absolutely splurge for it if the price is right. And I'm actually going to do something crazy here. I'm going to directly compare the Acela, for real, against other nations' high-speed trains. Forget the speed, we know it will lose. But what about the actual onboard service experience? Let's start with the Shinkansen. God, I love the Shinkansen. But for most Shinkansens, green class is the first class on offer. I've got a video on it coming out later, but it's in a 2-2 rather than 1-2, and there's not much proactive service. You can just order some basic drinks. From a pure customer experience, the Acela first class is nicer. What about the TGV, also built by Alstom? Here it's in a 1-2, but I absolutely hate the fuzzy French seats. And there's no food or drink service at all on the train, other than the cafe car. So again, the Acela has better service. Renfe's Ave is in a 1-2, as is Irio's premium offering. With the top tickets, you get a meal, and yeah, the food quality is better than on the Acela, but it's an equivalent level of service. Deutsche Bahn's ICE in first class is in a 1-2, but there's no free food or service. And in Italy, we've got Italo and Trenitalia, both in a 1-2, but Amtrak has more and better food. Only Trenitalia's executive class is in a 1-1 and has a full meal like the Acela. So as much as I love nothing more than to rag on Amtrak for their slow speeds and delays, The actual service experience is world class. And I'm not just saying that as a patriotic American, I've brought the examples. Your crew, especially if they're based in other cities, may indeed be different, but I genuinely enjoyed my time and think you will too. Thanks for watching to the end, I really appreciate it. I didn't really go into the history of the Acela or the reason for all the delays in this review, so I'm actually going to suggest you check out How We Get Around's 3-part series on that. If you like this video, click that button and subscribe for many more train and flight reviews to come. I'll see you on the next one.